Welcome to our live stream of high school sports. Please note that this broadcast is produced by an independent team of sports enthusiasts, and the views, opinions, and commentary expressed are solely those of the commentators and not representative of the schools, teams, or athletes featured. While we strive for accuracy, occasional errors or misstatements may occur. This stream is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the show.
Yeah, come on, let's go. Hey, you ain't never seen nothing like this. Ain't no telling how it might get. It's the hypest right here. High school sports at its finest. So many highlights, you have to rewind it. Hey, Stream City, let me just remind you. The heart of a lion, the team full of fighters. So many stars on the field, it'll blind you. They're giving everything they got till the time's up. Yeah, legends in the making. History is made. We just getting started. You ain't seen a thing. YSN, gotta know the name. They gon' bring the flames. They gon' do their thing. Take it to another level, don't hold back. High school, got a passion and we show that. Got the drive and you know they got the heart. Number one spot for your high school sports. Let's go for the win. Hey.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. It is YSN Live, a new week. We missed Monday. We'll explain that in just a little bit. But it is Tuesday, the 12th of August, 2025. And ladies and gentlemen, we made it. We made it to Fall Sports 2025 and 2026, the academic year about to start here in the Mahoning Valley and across the area. But one thing we've been excited about for so long, is a partnership, an acquaintance that we've been wanting to bring onto this show that's going to make things much, much better. That's going to make, let's just face it, it's going to make us more accurate, reliable, and trustworthy more than ever before. Guest hosting today for Anthony Ronald Hartwig. Ladies and gentlemen, a dear friend of mine, and things just got a hell of a lot better. Here he is, Greg McAfee. What's up, Mac? You doing all right, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good.
Buddy, you are a sight for sore eyes because for so many, or it feels like so many years, you've attributed and contributed from the Vindicator, the Trib, no pun intended. You went to Pittsburgh for a spell there. You've been to Buffalo. I mean, you've been all over the map, but you decided, hey, I really like what you guys are doing at YSN, which we appreciate. And even if you're lying, we certainly appreciate your honesty. But dude, thank you so much for joining the team. For those people who don't know you, how would you kind of sum up your professional resume to this point in your career?
Oh man, just to sum it up, I've been a lot of different places. I've done a lot of different things. A lot of them have to do with sports, covering high school sports in a lot of different areas: Arizona, Pittsburgh, Beaver County, kind of across the borderline. But I've been kind of all over the place. Sports is one thing that's been a constant in my life for a long time. When I was young, I always knew that I wanted to be involved in sports in some way, somehow. I started I thought I was going to be like an athletic trainer, a physical therapist. And then I got into journalism. I got into writing. It's something that I've always, had a really big passion for since I was a young kid. And I'm like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And that's kind of how I got going. And I've never really stopped.
It's funny because you had like the career move, right? You went to Pittsburgh. You're covering all the different sports teams for an entity which we will leave out right now. We don't want to do any free plugs, but for you go from high schoolers where people sit there and they go, okay, that's where you cut your teeth, and then you get to where everybody wants to go. Chucking it up with the Steelers and Penguins and Pirates and all those teams. And then you decided, that's great and all, but your heart was kind of back in high school. What were the motivations there? And when did you realize that you really missed being a part of not only just high school, but high school in the Valley?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously ever since I got into journalism, I've covered high school sports. I've obviously dabbled in college and professional sports here and there, kind of over the course of my career. But there's always one thing that's special about high school sports. I mean, when I was a player back in high school when I was growing up, the one thing that I loved, that my friends loved, is getting the recognition, seeing your name in the newspaper, seeing your name on websites, social media, and it's one thing that can cultivate at the high school level. It's one thing of recognizing the kids that have that success at this level. Maybe they're not going to go on to play college athletics, they're not going to go on to be professional athletes, but giving them their flowers at the high school level is one thing that's special. I mean, and it's real. Like, high school sports is the emotions you see, everything. You don't necessarily always see that at the college level or the professional level. It's real at the high school level. And these kids deserve their recognition. They deserve that limelight, to be able to be recognized and get their name in the bright lights and everything like that. And that's just one thing that's always been special about high school sports for me, is giving these kids their recognition, to be able to go on and play at the next level, or if they decide to go on into a next chapter of their life and leave sports behind.
I know Andy.
It's special at this level.
I know Andy Hake always says that it's the last authentic piece of our
Yeah.
country is high
Yeah.
school sports,
Hmm.
which is interesting. If
Yeah.
at first you can be kind of like knee jerk reaction to it, but then you start thinking about it and you go, okay, everything else seemingly has a dollar sign around it,
Hmm.
and high school sports, youth sports, even now is into that because you can do recruiting and things of that nature. High
Hmm.
school sports, they have regulations. Um, for you, do you feel like the business we talked about it the other day, the business aspect of sports has taken over the mainstream, or do you feel like high school sports is still resisting that right now and kind of holds its own future in its own hands?
Well, I mean, it depends where you go. I mean, you with the NIL, with social media and everything, like, you see it creeping into high school sports now. I mean, I think there was the OHSAA talked about it a couple years ago, and I can't remember if they denied it or if they approved it. But
Denied
I
it.
mean, you have kids over in Pittsburgh. If the name Rodney Gallagher means anything to you, as soon as it was approved in Pennsylvania, he had a deal like 2 or 3 hours later. And he went on to play at West Virginia. Obviously, he's a great athlete and everything. And I don't hate on kids for going out to get their money, but you see it kind of creeping in all over the place. You've seen it at the AAU level in high school sports for a long time, of kids playing on the Nike circuits and the Adidas circuits and things like that. And so you kind of see it creeping in a little bit to high school sports, in the off seasons, not in the actual like high school athletics in season and everything like that. But it's one thing that's just, I think high school sports is very authentic. You see the emotion, you see the raw emotions and everything like that. And that's kind of what's appealing to a lot of journalists. I mean, I've had a lot of coworkers in the past that are like, I really have no intention, I have no desire to cover college sports, to cover professional athletics, because you don't get what you get at the high school level.
Yeah, people think that, and for good reason, they think that the
Yeah.
NIL could be problematic for high schools.
Hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
the stat that is going to make people scratch their heads is that I think 38 states, excluding Ohio, have the
Yeah.
NIL in high school levels. So
Hmm.
for you, I guess the better question, you were in the Pittsburgh market, you
Yeah.
saw this happen firsthand. Do you think that it's inevitable that it's going to come to Ohio, being that it's in the majority of the states in our country?
I mean, I think it comes down to the athletic directors. It comes down to the OHSAA board, I mean, what they think and how it is. Obviously, I don't think it's something that is going to be, if it doesn't get approved or anything like that, is going to be detrimental to high school sports or any high school athletics. I don't think we're going to see kids transferring out or anything like that. I personally think, I mean, I don't want to deter any kids from going after NIL money. Like, if kids have a big enough social media presence, go get what you're worth. I mean, you see, like, I brought up the Rodney Gallagher kid. He had a huge social media following. He grew up playing next to Bronny James Jr. on the AAU circuit. He
Yeah.
had this following. He was able to go get his money. I don't hate on them for that whatsoever. If kids can do that, go get it, because that's what they deserve. But I don't think it will be any detrimental to high school athletics or anything like that. And if it does come, it's only going to benefit the kids in any certain way.
See, you and I are kind of on the same page in
Hmm.
all of this. Like
Yeah.
it's I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Everybody looks at
Yeah.
it, it's a bad situation. I'm going to just put it out there. I don't think the majority, and this is the overarching majority of
Hmm.
student athletes are $300,000, $400,000,
Yeah.
$500,000, NIL people. I think you're
Hmm.
looking at maybe like a pizza at,
Yeah.
Giangelo's a week. You know what I mean? To come and come and check out the McAfee pizza or the Yoakley pizza, da 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 da,
Hmm.
just to get people through the doors. I
Yeah.
don't think the majority of parents understand that their student athlete is not number one Division One talent, premier blue chip talent.
Hmm.
Secondly, you can invest all the money in the world, and we've had these conversations into hitting lessons, pitching lessons, catching
Yeah.
lessons, all this stuff. That doesn't mean you're ever going to get that money back in
Hmm.
a deal or a scholarship or anything like that. So I guess my question is do you see like the education of the NIL? Because I think most people are just oblivious to how it works and kind of the amount of money that it takes and the influence that you can make, because we've seen it at the college level and certainly at the pro level with some of these endorsement deals that
Hmm.
one mistake, that endorsement's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like, I guess when NIL first started getting talked about, or when it first started getting brought up, the idea of NIL was that such and such will do a task for such and get such and such money. So like they'll do an ad deal for a phone company or Nike or Under Armour or something like that, and they'll get money for that. And then it transformed into basically pay to play. Like, so if Travis Hunter comes to this school, he's going to get paid this much money for just coming to that school. And it's so I think NIL in general it's so, I guess I don't want to say misunderstood, but it's such a like wide range of things that there's not a basic like this is what it needs to be. I think Deion Sanders has talked about it a couple times, where it needs to be like where it needs to be like a player is going to do a task for such company and get paid such much money. I think that's where the foundation of NIL was, and it kind of transformed into pay to play over the course of how many years it's been installed now and everything like that. So it's been kind of the wild wild west in a way, if you want to look at it.
Yeah, I think it's wild because no pun intended. It's one of those things where like endorsement deals at the pro level turned into NIL deals at the college
Yeah.
level, and I think it's
Hmm.
going to look completely different than both of those
Yeah.
when I think inevitably it comes to Ohio. No, I think it was 3 years ago. It got voted down by principals here in Ohio.
Hmm.
I think that there's a lot of pressure, and I said this at the time.
Hmm.
There's a lot of pressure on those principals and administrators of all makes and all
Yeah.
high schools and whether it's private or public, because when you start taking food essentially off the table of parents and potential
Hmm.
student athletes, that's a really risky business right there, Greg.
Yeah, I think when they first voted on it, I could be wrong in this, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when they first voted on it, it was so new. Had just been approved. It was just coming together. I don't think there was really any type of framework or anything that was involved in it. And I don't necessarily think it was a bad move to turn it down and just be able to put something in place so there was an understanding and a framework involved where people could follow it along and see, all right, here are the rules, here's what you can do, here's what you can't do, and then put something in place so people can understand it before it actually gets approved and players can actually start to benefit from it.
I agree. I think it was a
Yeah.
great kind of turn down because you can kind of sit
Hmm.
back and watch everybody else and see what
Yeah.
happens before you
Yeah.
make an educated decision.
Hmm.
I haven't heard anything to the negative effect of high school NILs. Now, I haven't
No.
been actively looking, but
Hmm.
I think in more cases than not, it's just same practice. And if you're able to go make money with the influencers and things like that, then the OHSAA, which typically comes down with that swift velvet hammer,
Yeah.
uh, they can't really do anything at that. And again, I don't think that there's, and I could be wrong, there could be millions of dollars out there on the table for student athletes in the state of Ohio, but you're not seeing it in Pennsylvania. And typically, we're like brother and sister or brother
Yeah.
and brother in that scenario, because what happens in Ohio typically happens in Pennsylvania and vice versa.
Yeah, like I think the big worry surrounding it when it first got approved was kind of what you see at the collegiate level a little bit. You see kids transferring to bigger programs with bigger exposure, with bigger money, with bigger pockets, basically. And I don't think that necessarily would affect um teams or schools programs in the Mahoning Valley area. I don't think there's any one program that is ginormously bigger than another where you would see kids transferring and everything like that. I think it would come into play maybe more in the higher populated areas like Columbus or like Cincinnati or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would necessarily affect the Mahoning Valley as much unless you see kids, transferring out of Mahoning Valley to go somewhere else to try to chase money. But I don't think it would necessarily, have a huge effect on schools in the Mahoning Valley.
I think it's gonna have a bigger effect on travel ball,
Yeah.
AAU, that
Yeah,
stuff than it
100%.
will ever
Yeah.
be on OHSAA. But
hmm
we have Derpy who is dropping some knowledge on us here today, loving what we're doing, and certainly we love having him be a part of what we do. And he's basically saying that he loves pick'ems. Everybody loves our pick'ems. The
hmm
hot takes that we have on Fridays. Now we have some news about those particular programs that we have on Friday, which usually is the lead into our Audible call show and all our stuff that's happening on Friday. Greg, you are now a part of
hmm
obviously YSN, but we've made sure that you're going to have some featured articles that you're going to be doing for us. You're going to be
Yeah.
part of our Thursday night show called Zone Coverage that will be going from campus to campus in different capacities. So we have the first two 100% pretty much locked in, I should say pretty much locked in. We haven't got the okay, but I know week two we're going to do something close to YSU because it's opening night down at the Ice Castle. So we're going to be
There you go.
down at the Varsity Club, and we're talking to some Youngstown State folks and some people around Youngstown. Some familiar names and talk to them about what makes Youngstown State football, what makes Youngstown in general such a great football spot here, not only in the state of Ohio, but across the country. And then we are going to be going, like I said, campus to campus for 10 weeks. We'll be going and doing this on Thursday nights, and you and I will be chalking it up with some football talk, as well as just getting the culture, the fabric
Yeah.
of our valley, and from here, from the lake to the river. And we'll be joined by Sam Torres, who of 440 Sports Show. And I'm really looking forward to this. We did this a few years
hmm
ago. I think it was before COVID, but being able to go out there and really start putting, faces to places, meeting some coaches face to face, and talking about what makes that place so special. I know you're excited about this.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited. I mean, it's you walk around the Mahoney Valley and you go from team to team, campus to campus, and you see a lot of different special environments. I mean, obviously Youngstown State, watching Ursuline or watching Cardinal Mooney or going up to Harding and going to Mollenkoff Stadium. I've been to a lot of different stadiums in the area, and whether it's a big school or a small school, you get special environments. And one thing that I always like to say, and that I always look forward to at this time of year is football under the lights on Friday nights is something special. I've experienced it in Pittsburgh. I've experienced it on the outskirts of Pittsburgh, out in Phoenix, Tempe, Chandler, Arizona, and obviously in the Mahoney Valley. And it's a special experience, and you get to experience different kind of things at each stop. Out in Arizona, they tailgate hard before their games. You have parents, booster clubs putting together tailgates in the parking lots. Out here, you have, stadiums packed with fans who just want to watch high school football on a Friday night. And it's so much fun to see. It's such a cool experience. It's one thing I look forward to every year for sure.
And I know the biggest thing for you is getting back in the booth, being able
Yeah.
to announce
Yeah.
high school football and high school
Mhm.
sports. How excited are you to put that headset back on and to really bring it on Friday nights?
Oh man, I'm so excited. I got a little taste of it when I was at the Tribune Review in Pittsburgh towards the end of my time there, and I got to call some baseball games and stuff like that. It's so much fun. And you get to highlight the kids and everything like that, and being able to put your emotions into your call and highlight these special moments that take place on Friday nights. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to get in the booth and call some games here in the Mahoning Valley.
So, I mean, they're going to be seeing a lot of you on YSN, which is
Hmm.
our goal. I mean, being
Yeah.
able to get out there, having some feature, and I think you're going to be on this show on Mondays, as
Yep.
I
Yeah.
understand it,
Hmm.
kind of the overreaction Mondays. You'll be able to break things down after you have a chance to dissect them over the weekend and figure out
Hmm.
what's true and what's fugazi. So, that being said, there's a lot of people that are wondering what this high school football season holds for them, and we've got over 80 schools, over 80 districts that count on our coverage, Greg. So I guess the easy way to start is, and oh man, this is a loaded question. Who do people have to look forward to as some of the best in high school football this year? Who do you have pinned as your teams to watch?
You know, it's funny. Like in high school sports, things change so much over the course of 2, 3 years. I've been gone a year, and I come back and I look at the rosters, and it's like I don't recognize any names. There are certain teams that I do, and certain teams that I don't. Obviously, I'm still kind of digging in and getting reacquainted with a lot of the teams in our area. I see a few familiar names and everything like that. So obviously still getting reaccustomed to the teams in the area, and just kind of in digging into some of the teams so far, there are some teams that I'm really interested in. I'm not sure what the expectations are for programs in the area. Obviously, one team that comes to my mind that I've kind of looked into a lot, or looked into a decent amount, is Poland. Tom Pavlansky always has, he always gets guys going over there with the Bulldogs. They've had a special run, and obviously, you've seen kids excel over there over the course of since he's taken over at Poland. One team I got to talk to a lot, or one coach that I got to talk to a lot, kind of coming into these shows, was Danny Williams over at McDonald's. When I covered them a couple years ago, is Drew Zajac and Kyle Puckett were kind of splitting snaps under center, and now they're running in a wing tee offense. And they were sophomores back then, and now they're seniors. So I'm really excited to see kind of what they're able to do this year after their season came up short last year. Another team I got to talk to was Lowellville. Obviously, they're always putting up a lot of points on the scoreboard. They have a young quarterback and Ricky Wilrich coming back. He's a junior this year after taking over as a sophomore last year. He's got his top target back in Josh Paisel, and they got a couple other kids that are pretty talented. They got a new head coach though, Drew McLaughlin. He's a Lowellville alumni. He's taken over for Andrew Mamula, so it'll be interesting to kind of see what the Rockets are able to do. And obviously, you always gotta look at teams like Ursuline, Canfield, some of the bigger teams in the area and everything like that. But obviously, Springfield, you can look at them a little bit too. There's a lot of teams in this area that are always special and always fun to watch on Friday nights. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm really excited. The team that I've got my eye on for a number of reasons is Ursuline. I mean, this might be one of the better rosters that Dan Reardon's had in his tenure at Ursuline
Hmm.
the second time around. So I think keeping an eye on them, they've got a lot of talent top to bottom. AJ Snyder is an absolute dog.
Hmm.
He's got the size, the skill, and the IQ to make things happen from anywhere on the field. Being able to find this young man. And I think he's going to have a one heck of a recruitment process as he continues to go through that gauntlet. But I mean, everybody's talking about Poland. Every
Yeah.
single
Hmm.
every single person I bump into is talking about Poland because first it was what they didn't have, what they lost, and then it became what they got back and what they
Yeah.
have coming up. And when you look at Zipolitis, that kid being the YSN freshman rookie of the year, however you want to chop that up, the kid was outstanding. And I
Hmm.
think the sky's the limit. We've known about him for a long time, going back to the flag football days. And you have Kamara coming back. I mean, Kamara
Hmm.
is a guy that made things happen last year, a dual threat for Poland. They're going to be dangerous. They're going to be absolutely dangerous, but they have to go through that gauntlet. And I talk about it all the
NE8.
time, and people get
Mhm.
sick about it. The NE8, man,
Yeah,
that
it's
is a
good.
dog conference.
It's good every year. I mean, I wouldn't want to compare them to like the SEC or anything like that, but you go through that conference every year here in the Mahoning Valley, and it's always stacked. It doesn't matter what teams are talented and what teams aren't talented. It's a battle every Friday night, and it's something that those guys got to go through every single season. But the one thing that always stuck out to me about Poland since Pavlansky took over there is just how they play the game. It's they have heart, they have determination, they have grit, and you can never count them out on a Friday night, no matter who they're going up against.
And I think you don't have to look far in the NE8 to look for a potential kind of sleeper pick in Girard. And I think Derpy
Mhm.
knows better than anybody about Girard. They have some dudes this year, and I think that flying under the radar isn't exactly what Coach Pearson is known for,
Yeah.
because Girard's kind of that, we're going to punch you in the mouth from the front.
Mhm.
You're going to see us, and we want your best. I think Girard has a lot of potential this year, and they could spoil a lot of seasons with the way they play, which is, typically they can beat you, sideline to sideline, or
Yep.
they can put,
Mhm.
11 guys in the box. And like I said, punch you right in the jaw.
Yeah, I mean, every year they always find a way to get things done. They always have the talent that they put it on the field, and they can beat you in several different ways. I mean, I think when I was at the Trib and the Vindicator, one year it was, they're going to beat you through the air and they're going to have talent on the outside. The next year it was, we're going to run the ball down your throat. And they always have a solid defense as well. And Pat Pearson, that's where he excels on that side of the ball. And they're always a team to watch as well.
The MVAC is the one that I really been scratching my head, because I've been looking to see, okay, what's coming up, what
Hmm.
comes back, and you never know from year to year. Usually it's the Springfields of the world that you can count
Yeah.
on, but there's a lot of turnover in Springfield, not just at the administration side
Hmm.
of things, administrative side of things, but also they lost a lot of seniors. What do they
Hmm.
have coming back? That's what everybody wants to know. But one thing that you can't take away from Springfield ever is the amount of spirit and
Yeah.
excitement that community has for their football team, all the way back to days before Bo Brungard.
Hmm.
Springfield has been a community that rallies around every single team that they have. For you, do you expect a lot? I mean, with Coach Slopek stepping up into the job, and Sean Guerrero still in the building, he's the AD
Hmm.
now. So, do
Yeah.
you feel like changeover can affect the team in big ways at the high school level?
Not with a program like that. I mean, it
Okay.
seems like they are so just kind of in tune to what their culture is. I mean, in my 4 or 5 years living in the Mahoning Valley, I've never seen them have a bad year. I mean, even when they lost that class with Bo Brungard, they came back the next year and battled. Um, and when you have a culture like that, the kids know what the expectations are. The kids know what the standard is, and they're able to fulfill it no matter what the talent they have on the field there on Friday nights for sure.
In the MVAC, a team that is, to me, the belle of the ball right now is LeBray. I mean, they seemingly have found their stride. The cycle is hit, and now LeBray's got their athletes there, and they continue across the board in almost every sport that they're in, be a team that you have to circle on the schedule. You can't look
Mhm.
past them, or else they're going to make you feel it.
It's funny when you have programs like that, or when you have special years like that, where you see kind of the classes that are coming up through the school, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna circle the freshman class right here, and 3 4 years from now, that's going to be a special year for us. That's the year that we want to be prepared for. And obviously, LeBray is kind of in that position right now, where they have a special class put together, and they're finding success in a lot of sports.
Team that I've always kind of had, and they have dominated the female sports side of things, is Crestview, and I think they're
Hmm.
about ready to. You're about ready to see that black and gold wave kind of shine through again. With all the things that they have going on, they're building that indoor facility, a new school coming. They just put turf down a few years ago. I think Crestview could potentially be another team that you have to keep kind of in your purview, so to
Hmm.
speak, because they're a team that is built on grit, toughness. I mean, you
Yeah.
have a Paul Cusick team, now Don Perry's team. They're a team that you're going to have to look out for. And I think that the element of surprise, which is something you haven't been able to say about Crestview for such a long time, is in their favor.
Hmm. Yeah, Crestvew's always been kind of an interesting program for me. They always have a couple kids that are able to, tote the rock, throw the ball, things like that, and they're going to play hard-nosed defense and everything. I think they have a pretty talented quarterback coming back this year, and Jake Nolan, if I got that correct. Dual threat guy, and he's a senior. He's coming into his own. It could be another special year for Crestview, that's for sure.
And then you look at the MVAC as a whole, and you sit there and you go, okay, there's a lot of just rumor mills flying right now through that conference. Do you, when you look at high school conferences, the last time we
Hmm.
had a huge shakeup was 2017. Do you feel like we're due for a conference shakeup, or do you think that they'll just battle through some of the choppy tides, as we say here, and then move forward as a complete conference?
I mean, I think they kind of battle through the choppy tides and just kind of move forward. I mean, I don't necessarily think, obviously change happens, and shakeups happen and everything like that. But until there's a lot of change, then I mean, you just kind of keep moving forward with what you have for sure.
Isn't it wild to think and to see kind of from our perspective is these some of these districts, some of these conferences even kind of
hmm
look over in the other yard and say the grass is always greener?
Sometimes the grass isn't greener though. You don't know what you have. You know what I mean. It might look good, but you get over there and it's not what you think it is. So it's interesting. I mean, I think in high school sports, especially teams moving around and things like that, the shakeups are interesting. Because obviously we get used to seeing the same teams go against each other every single year. But then you have those rivalries. I mean, you have teams going up against each other that, obviously like Canfield and Poland. Always fun to watch, not in the same conference, but obviously a great rivalry every time it comes around. So you never really know what you have until you actually have it. I wouldn't always say the grass is always greener. Sometimes it can be, sometimes it can't be. Um, but I mean, teams are gonna test out what they can do and what is best for them for sure.
Grass is always greener where they water it, right? That's what they
Yeah,
always
yeah,
say.
exactly.
So
There you go.
I'm interested because you look at some of the conference changes already, and Louisville joining the All American Conference. That's going to be interesting because that's another big school that
hmm
joins the likes of a Harding and a Fitch and a Boardman and a Canfield. When you look at that, do you think Louisville kind of fits the MO? I mean, given it is a little bit of a travel, but I mean it's
hmm
well within our purview of what we do at YSN.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good fit for that conference?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I've always thought that that conference could use maybe an extra team or two. Obviously, because you have teams like Hardin who kind of up and down a little bit. I mean, I think my first year, Steve Arnold was still kind of building them up a little bit to kind of capitalize on what they had and everything like that. And obviously, Canfield was living on Brock Lowry time when I was when I was around here and everything like that. So I mean, I've always thought that they could use another team in there. Obviously, Louisville, when I was here, Louisville was a team that was kind of out of my purview a little bit, so I got to look into
Sure.
them a little bit more, and obviously kind of garner knowledge on that program and that school. But I think adding to a conference in the area and making it a little bigger to shake up the schedules a little bit is always good for sure.
I look at that NE8 or the NE7 essentially because they're missing an eighth team, and I've always wondered who the magical fit would be. Do you have any thoughts on? And we don't have to be right. I mean, that's the beauty of
Yeah.
being in the media, right? We don't have to be right.
hmm
Um, do you feel like there's a team that fits the puzzle that is the NE8 that would make that conference complete once again?
Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, there's so many options in the area. Obviously, there's a lot of good schools in the area. So I think it would be very tough off the top of my head to come up with a team, that would kind of fit that profile that doesn't already have a great fit. You know what I mean? Obviously, like, oh, just kind of trying to think off the top of my head here.
So I'll start it off for you, and
All
I'll
right,
let
all
you.
right.
In my world, I look at what some of these teams, to your point, some of these teams have, and I'm not trying to
hmm
pull away from conferences, but if we're building a quote unquote dream conference in the
Yeah.
NE8, I think Canfield is a perfect fit. I think Canfield would be the team
Yep.
that goes there. They're only a few kids away from being a D4 football squad, as I understand it. So you
hmm
sit there and you look at it and you go, okay, because I think some of these schools have considered outgrown Canfield. I mean, you look
Yeah.
at what Boardman brings in and Fitch and even Louisville. I mean, these are
hmm
Canfield's punching up a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So I
hmm
think it'd be interesting to get Canfield. And then you talk about that 224 rivalry between Poland and Canfield, and that's a conference game now. So you add that into the
Yeah.
mix. Then you think about a Canfield versus South Range, which they're inevitably going to play for the next few years, starting next
Yep.
year. The other one, I mean, same mascot is Cardinal Mooney. How cool
hmm
would it be to see a Cardinal Mooney go into a conference with a South Range and you're starting to play off of that private versus public.
Yeah.
Just two ones right off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it kind of on the head. I think those would, if I would have thought about it a little bit deeper, had a little bit. I'm still kind of getting back into everything over
I
here in
got you.
Mahoning Valley. Yeah, I think Canfield fits. I mean, I think the big thing with me is the rivalry games. The Battle of 224 every year was something that we always hyped up and everything like that, and it's something that pops off the page no matter what the sport is, no matter what it is. Um, so you add Canfield into the NE8. They get Poland every year. I think they would have a great matchup with Gerard every year. South Range, obviously, as well, is something that's been kind of talked about ever since they were both in the state championship a couple of years ago. So I think you hit the nail on the head. And then Cardinal Mooney, I think, would be another great option. I mean, it's the size wise and school wise and everything like that. And it fills out their schedule with local matchups compared to going on the road or facing schools from out of the area.
And I think the biggest thing is you want to keep schools kind of the same size. And I know
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
South Range is a D5 school, but people talk about Springfield. People talk about,
Yeah.
what about Beaver Local? What about it's a the travel is what teams
Yeah.
and districts
Hmm.
need to start looking at, because the
Yeah.
travel, the more gas, the more buses, the more this isn't just football. This is
Yeah.
Tuesday night 7th grade volleyball. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? That's the trouble, and getting home at a reasonable and respectable time, so that way your kids can still do homework and get ready for bed and be
Yeah.
productive in the classroom the next day. Most people just look at these schedules and they go, okay, well, that makes sense. It makes sense for maybe sports, but not necessarily for the rest of a student athlete or coach's life. So, uh,
Yeah.
again, these are just dream matchups and dream kind of placements. But
Yeah.
in no way have we heard anything about,
No.
because there's going to be somebody out there on Twitter that's reporting that YSN announces that Canfield and Cardinal Mooney enter. That's no,
No.
we're just having some fun right here
Yep.
on a Tuesday well, there's really nothing to talk about before we get to Saturday, and all of a sudden we're talking about volleyball and all the fall
Hmm.
sports. For you, what is? I mean, you've covered a lot of beats along the way. What has been the
Hmm.
most fun for you? Is it high school football? Is it something else? Is it something just way off of the beaten path that you've really enjoyed?
I think high school football is up there. It's one of my favorite things to cover. It was, obviously when I first started in journalism, I started at Tribune Reviews fresh out of college at Slippery Rock University, and I was a freelancer, in the office during the week, kind of answering phone calls for scores and everything like that, starting at the bottom. And then I was able to cover games on Friday nights and everything like that, and really expand my experience. So that was the first kind of welcome to journalism I got when I was fresh out of college. I was covering high school sports on or covering high school football on Friday nights. So it was something I immediately fell in love with. I mean, and then you move around the country. I went out to Arizona. It's a different experience out there. Huge schools, huge booster clubs, throwing tailgates, everything like that. The media scene, you don't have just like, one or two, um, newspapers covering games. You have, in the age of social media, you have, influencers covering games, recruiting websites covering games. So I got to meet a lot of the guys in the media and everything like that. And it added to the experience. So high school football is something that I always will kind of hold a special place in my heart, just kind of being on the sidelines on a Friday night, now being in the booth on Friday night. Um, but obviously, being able to cover the Steelers was a really cool experience for me, being in the clubhouse or around professionals like Russell Wilson and Minka Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt and Cam Hayward and things like that. And, covering games, covering pit games was fun as well. Obviously, I got to see them, mount a pretty big comeback against Cincinnati this past year, and then you have the backyard brawl with Pitt in West Virginia, which is one of the best games I've ever covered in my life. So there's a lot of things that have been special throughout my career, but I think high school football definitely ranks up there. And just seeing the emotions of high school sports. I mean, it's nothing like seeing a kid win a championship. Whether it's a district championship or a state championship or anything like that, it's pretty special.
Greg, one of the things that I try to let people in and kind of peel back the curtain on some of the things that we do.
Hmm.
When you're talking about the professional sports, when you're talking about college sports, there is an
Yeah,
element of information that is readily available to you at your
yeah,
fingertips. I mean, there's live stats and all that stuff. There's
Mhm.
multiple media outlets that you're going to be able to read or take in and kind of form
Yeah.
your own opinion. When it comes to high school, there are very limited. I mean, when you're talking about
Yeah.
stats, we're keeping our own, or we're asking the coaches or the official statistician every game, and we may get it by Sunday.
Mhm.
What are the challenges that you've seen along the high school route? Because I mean, you've got deadlines that you have to hit. We're kind of lucky because we're creating the content from that
Mhm.
standpoint, live and on the air. You have to get everything kind of. I mean, I don't know what that time was. It was like 10:30 that you guys had to have everything turned around for the next
It's
day.
bad.
What
Yeah.
was that like for you to? Because there's not a whole lot of compassion when
Mhm.
you don't get that information that you need to create a story or create content.
Yeah. I mean, it's why a lot of people will say you cut your teeth as a journalist at the high school level, because you have to collect a lot of things on your own. You can't be afraid to ask questions to get what you need to write a story or produce content and things like that. And it's something that's always been tough. I mean, when I first started in journalism, I think the first high school football game I ever covered, out in Arizona, I had to try to develop some type of system because the coaches of the team I was covering didn't take stats during the game. They would go back through the video and watch the game the next morning, and that's how they would develop their stats. And obviously, I was on deadline and everything like that, so I had to develop my own system of taking a notebook and writing play by play with the yardage and who was carrying the ball and who threw the ball to who. And then before I wrote my story, I would have to go back through all my notes and add everything up. And sometimes they were right, sometimes they were wrong. And then obviously, as I became more experienced, I, would get a stat sheet that I'd be able to take my own notes on the sidelines and everything like that. So I rely a lot on myself, but there also have been a lot of schools in the area that rely on like Max Preps and send their stats in that way, or there's a couple other obviously systems that teams use in the area, but it's always tough. That 45, it's usually about 45 minutes between the time the game ends and when the paper needed to be out for Saturday night or Saturday morning. And those 45 minutes could normally be very, very stressful because you're waiting for calls to come in, you're waiting for emails to be sent. um and it was always interesting. I will say I will say that, of being able to you know put stories together and get everything ready for the paper, that's for sure. It's always been
What's
tough.
Oh, buddy, I get it a hundred
it's always
percent.
it's always been tough.
Well, and it's a challenge because again, behind the curtain, we're putting together content stories and we're trying to put as many names as we can in lights and
Yeah,
in headlines
100%.
and throughout but when all you have is touchdowns to go by because
Hmm.
you know team X doesn't keep stats, or like you said, they don't do anything until the next day because they're in their
Yeah.
time. Not that they need to pander to us,
Hmm.
but at the same time, we're always the one that it's a double edged sword of okay, we're not going to give you anything, but we expect everything in return. And not that we're a
Hmm.
victim, us being the media, but it's a situation where like you kind of help me help you situation.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, for me, it's always been, my goal, my goal as a journalist, my, desire is to put these kids' names in the paper and give them their limelight, give them their flowers, and we don't want it for any other reason. If a kid runs for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns, I want to be able to include his stats and how many carries he had and be able to highlight his career night so that when he's 35 years old, he can look back on those newspaper clips, or his parents can, put them on the fridge or something like that, like my mom used to do when I was in high school.
amen.
And that's all we want. So that's all we, as journalists, as media members, that's all we really ask for, to be able to, highlight these kids' successes at the high school level, and that's what we're looking to do.
I'm excited to hear some of your calls because I loved reading all of your columns. I think you are
Hmm.
incredibly talented across the board, and I think that most people pin you just for a writer. Now you've
Yeah.
got, similar to me, you have so many skills, but that is what you're known for. For you, what are you most excited about being able to jump into the booth and let people know that you have another dimension that nobody's really been able to see?
We were talking about this, and I think when we were talking last week, the week before. But one thing I've taken a lot of pride in over the course of my career is being able to do everything. When I first got into journalism, the best piece of advice I ever got was, be able to do everything so no one can say no to you, so that you can get any job you ever want. So ever since I got into journalism, I started as a writer, which was obviously why I got into journalism. I love writing, I love telling stories. And I'm looking forward to doing that a lot at YSN in the written form. But when I started at my job in Arizona, I'd never really taken a photo with a camera before in my life, and I got into photography, and I still do that to this day. If you follow me on McAfee Photos on Instagram, I've taken a lot of photos in the area. I got into page design with Adobe InDesign. I learned how to do that, and I was designing the front page of my newspapers out in Arizona, and I did that here in the Trib as well. Um, and then play-by-play broadcasting, radio, podcasting is something that I've always had a real passion for, but I never really had the opportunity to do it. I got to do it a little bit in Pittsburgh towards the end of my time there, and so I'm excited to get back into the booth and be able to, showcase what I can do and highlight these kids' successes, and add a little flair and add a little emotion to it, and have some fun. That's for sure.
I'm just excited that you're such a sucker that you were like, I was like, you can have any team you want, really. You're like, you know what? I'm going to spread myself out there. I'm going to spread my wings and I'm going to fly a
I,
little bit.
I want to see what the Valley has to offer this year. When I was working at the Trib, I wanted to be wherever I could be. I didn't want to be stuck on one team. There was one year I covered Harding every weekend, but when they were away, I was like, I want to go to the best game possible. I want to cover, the best. I want to see what we have. I want to see what everyone else has in the area. So I would go wherever I was needed. No matter where that was, no matter how far the drive was. I wanted to highlight these kids, and there was, one year I got to follow Canfield's state title run, and I really got to know Brock Lowry and Mike Pavlansky and that crew as they went to Canton, and it was really fun to do. But I want to see what the Valley has to offer in the area this year. I want to get re-emerged back into the scene and get to know the coaches and the kids again. And everything like that. Because, like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of kids that I don't know these names. I when I was here for 3 years, I was like, all right, this kid's a freshman, and I saw him, transform into the huge player by the time he was a junior or senior. I want to be able to do that again and kind of get my name out there and be able to introduce myself to these kids and these players in person.
What do you think? Because you've interviewed all pros, you've interviewed
Hmm.
just incredible athletes, world class athletes, and you also have a passion for high school, as we've alluded to
Hmm.
throughout this entire interview. What is the biggest kind of discrepancy that you see between interviewing for good and for bad,
Yeah.
a pro and interviewing a high school or a coach?
I think in high school, there's a lot of raw emotion. There's a lot of kids that just kind of want to speak their mind and everything like that, and coaches, I think you get a lot of coach speak at time, but you get a lot of coaches in the area that are very honest, and they'll tell you what you want to hear. At the professional level, you get some guarded comments, outside of a player or two. Obviously, we got to interview George Pickens a little bit last year, and
I was just going to say
he
Pickens. It had to be Pickens.
Pickens was a funny interview, but then you talk to guys like Russell Wilson, or Minka Fitzpatrick or Cam Hayward, who they choose their words very wisely. You kind of have to dig into a little bit of you have to look into what they're saying, to get the true message that they're trying to get across. One of the favorite things that I loved doing this past year was reading back through Mike Tomlin's transcript, because obviously he uses a lot of Tomlinisms, which are what
Obviously.
so which are what get out there, in social media and everything. But digging into his messages of what he's saying in his press conferences is fun to do, because sometimes he kind of ties in some interesting messages to what he's saying without actually saying it, if you know
I
what I mean.
feel like you don't get the real Tomlin until the season's over, and you get that
The
season-ending conference, and you're like, "Oh, we knew he meant that."
the Tomlin you get in press conferences is different from the Tomlin you get in, like around the club, or around the locker room. I'm still in baseball terms, around the locker room and things like that. It's kind of like Bill Belichick in a way. So obviously Bill Belichick, all of his press conferences are kind of legendary. You know what I mean? Like in terms of him not really saying anything, but then you hear all of these stories from like Julian Edelman and Rob Gronkowski come out, and we're like, oh no, this is the real Bill Belichick. That's someone else that's on the press conference.
We're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it was fun. I mean, and a little, kind of look into my day yesterday. I took the little guy out. First time I've ever been to Steelers training camp. I've tried
Mhm.
twice, failed miserably because of rain. So it's an hour and a half. Just that
Yeah.
stinks. But
Hmm.
we got to go yesterday. The weather was gorgeous. Got to spend some time with a couple friends and my little guy. And dude, just watching them and watching Tomlin, how he interacts with the players,
Hmm.
very interesting, because you talk
Yeah.
about leadership and you talk about how it's top down. There's a reason this guy's been around for 18 years and
Hmm.
he's in no jeopardy of, no matter what people say, he's in no jeopardy of losing his job. He's one of the greatest coaches, I think, in Steelers history, but certainly he could be up there in NFL history with what he's been able to do on his resume. He has something that nobody else has over his tenure and no losing seasons. Whether you appreciate that or not, that's still something to be heralded.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason players like playing for him. And I don't think that you get to see those reasons a lot unless you're kind of behind the scenes. That's why I enjoyed watching like the Hard Knocks series last year, because you kind of see a little bit of those moments, like Tomlin walking off the field with Hayward in Cincinnati and the conversation they kind of had as they were going to the locker room. Those type of conversations, those type of moments, you don't really get to see a lot. Like Minka Fitzpatrick sitting in a defensive coaches meeting with the staff and just kind of providing his insight. Tomlin facilitates those moments. He facilitates those relationships, and that's why a lot of people like playing for him. And he's special behind the scenes. He's able to develop those type of unique relationships with players that make him a special coach. That's for sure.
I guess we got to talk about the Pirates a little bit too, since
Oh.
nobody else wants to. Boy, oh boy, has it been a trying year. You talk about Ben Cherry, and you've had obviously the chance to talk with him and sit in on
Mhm.
some of those press conferences and have some of those conversations. Boy, oh boy. What I thought was going to be an incredible, just unicorn like, I don't know, franchise turn for the Pirates has turned out to be same old, same old. And now that, I guess you don't have to mince words, what are your thoughts on, do the Pirates really have a trajectory here, or is it just going to be flatline for the rest of our time?
You know, heading into this year, obviously the conversation last year, once I started working in Pittsburgh and kind of covering the team and doing a little bit of everything, the conversation was, all right, 2025 is going to be the year. It's, we're going to build around Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens is here. We have a, generational talent. We're gonna do the moves that are necessary to put ourselves in position to win. And then you get into this year, and their biggest, off-season acquisition was Andrew
Adam
McCutcheon. I
Frazier.
think money wise, Andrew McCutcheon, Andrew Heaney was signed late into spring training. Tommy Pham, who I will give Tommy Pham his flowers. He's been good. He's been really, really good as of late. Obviously got off to a bad start, but Adam Frazier, guys like that, obviously they had a little bit of success with the bullpen acquisitions they made. But the whole thing was 2025 is going to be the year. We're going to build around Paul Skeens. We have, Jared Jones, we have Mitch Keller, we have Bubba Chandler coming up. And now we're just over midway through 2025. And the conversation has now turned to, oh, 2026 is going to be the year. We got to do whatever we can to get better for 2026. So I'm in the position where I am going to believe what they do, not what they say. So when spring training comes around next year down in Bradenton, Florida, Lecom Park, or Pirate City, whatever one you want to do, that's what's going to share what they are planning to do in 2026. I mean, you got to go out and you got to add some bats, you got to add some offense. Obviously, they have the pitching to get this done. If you look at their starting rotation of what it's going to be next year, there's obviously a couple options, but it's going to be headlined by Paul Skeens and Mitch Keller if Mitch Keller doesn't get traded in the offseason. So it's going to be Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller, probably Johan Oviedo. Mike Burrows, and probably Bubba Chandler. And then you have Jared Jones coming back midway through the year, if at all. And then you have a stud in Hunter Barco waiting in the wings as well. You got to do something to build around that pitching staff. I mean, you have to. You got to go out, you got to get a bat, you got to do whatever you can to improve the offense. You've seen what the pitching staff can do this year. Just go address the offense and see what you guys can do in a year.
Do you think they got the haul they deserve for Bednar?
No, I don't. I really don't. I mean, Ben Charrington even admitted in his post trade deadline press conference that they had probably better packages on the table, but the one they got was the one they wanted, which I don't that doesn't make a ton of sense to me. If there's better packages out there, I think Rafael Flores will be a interesting. I think he's going to be an interesting prospect. Obviously, trading for a catcher though kind of brings in the question of what are they going to do at the catching position, because you have Henry Davis, you have Joey Bart, and you have Andy Rodriguez. Um, so obviously something's going to change at the catching position over the course of the offseason. So it will be interesting to see kind of how they handle that moving forward.
All right, so I think I know the answer to this. You've been around it, so I guess the
Mhm.
best thing to do is ask you, why do they not want the Pirates to play the actual position that they've been playing for the entirety of their careers? They try to move them into different play, and I understand that you want to have versatile players, but
Mhm.
to my knowledge, Henry Davis had never played right field to that point in his career, and they just said, you know what, you can catch, so go ahead, just go out to right field, just don't pick Dandy. It's almost like the 7U thought process of, hey, just go out there and do your best.
Yeah, so I mean, I wasn't around the team a lot when that decision was made, and obviously they regretted that position because they moved him back behind the plate, and he's improved defensive. Like,
But it's everybody, right? I
yeah,
mean, there was a
yeah, and
moment, there was a spell that everybody was a first baseman. Like they thought
yeah.
about putting Cruz at first base, who throws 110 miles an hour,
I,
by the
I
way.
don't I don't know if I ever heard that. O'Neal Cruz playing first base. That's something that people have suggested to me in like comments and things like that. And I'm like, that's never gonna happen because you're wasting his talent, you're wasting his speed, you're wasting his arm. Uh I think personally, I think Cruz is a better fit in center field. I think he's shown flashes of it so far this year with being out there full time. I think IKF has been a solid shortstop, and I think he could be this is the last year of his contract. I think he could be a good, like a bridge shortstop until Connor Griffin comes up. In terms of versatility, it's something that I looked into kind of a little bit back in spring training of kind of what they really value. And it's the ability to move guys around. And that's not just from like a defensive perspective, but it's from an offensive perspective. Like, so if you think about it, if you have a guy who can play multiple positions and he's swinging the bat, you can put him in the offense. You can put him in the lineup wherever you can because he can play so many positions. So if you have one or two or three guys like that who are swinging a very hot bat and can move around the field, you can kind of pick and choose where you want to put him and who plays on a daily basis. So I can understand the frustration of just like leave one guy, especially like where he is, where he's always played. And I think they've done that a little bit more this year in terms of like Nick Gonzalez sticking at second. IKF played a lot of the year at shortstop before Brian Hayes got traded. Spencer Horowitz has played just first base. Andy Rodriguez played first base out of need basically, and he'd played there before, so that kind of filled in. But then you have a guy like Leovera Peguero who has moved all over the field in the minor leagues, and now he's playing first base, shortstop, second base at the major league level, and he's performing pretty well. So I think it's the defensive versatility idea is so that they can move guys around in the lineup, and kind of rely on the hot bat.
Hey,
That's the way I've always took it.
this is tongue in cheek, obviously. This would never happen, but you want to put butts in the seats. You put Paul Skeens in left field and just watch what happens. Let him get the stick. I mean, he's going to, because he can hit. People don't realize most of these pitchers can actually
he
hit.
so the last time he swung, or the last time he hit as a player, was at Air Force. He never hit
Yeah.
at LSU, and we had a conversation with him earlier this year where it was kind of on the side, and he said that he wouldn't want to hit because his body feels 10 times better when he doesn't have to hit. So he's in much better shape as a pitcher. His body isn't as sore and he is able to excel more on the mound. Now, that being said, it would be very fun to see him step into the box and try to hit a couple jacks. That would be very fun. I would enjoy
Dude can
that.
match, from what I heard. He can match. I mean, he's huge. So
I mean, he came up as a hitter. He was I think when he joined the
he was a
varsity
catcher,
team.
wasn't he?
Yeah, he played a little bit of third base one year, and then he was a catcher as well. And then as he got older, he transitioned into pitching, and that's kind of what he made a name for himself. But I'm pretty sure he caught at Air Force for a year too. And then
Imagine being a base runner.
before he came to LSU, he made a name for himself with the Tigers.
Good night, sweet prince. Ricky Henderson wouldn't stand a shot with skates behind the dish. No dice.
I would be interested to see like videos of him behind the dish and just kind of how strong his arm was, because it's such a different motion. Like, I mean, when I was coming up in high school and I was a catcher and my coach didn't want me to pitch because it's such a different motion. Like your arm slot, your arm location is so different,
Yep.
and it kind of can affects your mechanics. So it'd be interesting to see just kind of how strong his arm was from behind the plate.
I mean, I'm not here to talk about myself or brag, but somebody in this chat has 2 career Ks on the mound in Florida in spring training. The early days. They can't listen when you're out there and you're slinging from this, like the catcher's position. They can't pick that ball up. They can't trace
it's right behind your head.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Gee, I can't appreciate you enough for stopping by today, man. I am.
I appreciate it.
No, this is going to be great. I know everybody's so happy that you're with us and happy to get to know you a little bit better today. So thank you for spending some time with us on today's show and guest hosting. And can't wait to see you literally, I think, every day of the week moving forward from this point forward. So
I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
Excited for it. And again, thank you so much for what you did today. Popping by. I know we had some technical difficulties. Easy for me to say, technical difficulties early, but we were able to make the most of it. So, dude, thank you so much. Looking forward to it and everything you're about to do on YSN. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, man. Excited to be here.
That's it. That's going to do it for our show today. We will be back on Thursday with more here on YSN Live with some more interviews. And certainly we've got enough Boardman interviews to choke a horse. I think I did 20 interviews the other day, and we're excited to bring more Spartan interviews in the community. And as always, if you want to be part of our interviews, just reach out to us on our socials or email info, that's info @ysnlive.com. For the new Greg McAfee, I am DJ Yoakley. This has been YSN Live. We'll see you next time right here on the show. YSN thanks you for watching this presentation of your sports network. For stories, stats, and more, go to ysnlive.com.